As we start the Nashville Raccoons app project, there's some resources in Canvas in the modules area. And if you'll scroll down to week 2, there are a page of resources. These are basically strings. So you can click that, and we're going to copy and paste these strings into our string resource file. And then there's also a zip file of images. There are 4 images, each of 5 different sizes for the various sizes inside the drawable folder. And you can import those using the resource manager. So I've already set up my project, which I named Nashville Raccoons Demo. And I added the strings in that I had copied from Canvas. And then in the drawables folder, I added the 4 images of the raccoon logo. And that's just a circular logo with the raccoon image. Raccoons, which includes the text of Nashville Raccoons, plus the raccoon image, Ronnie, our mascot, and the stadium. And we'll use those as we go through this project. So our first screen is the main menu for our app, or opening menu. And it's a linear layout. So by default, when we create an empty activity, we get a constraint layout. And you can see it says constraint layout in our component tree. Well, I want to make this a linear layout. And there's 2 ways I can do that. One is I can go to the code for this layout file, activity_main XML. And at the top here in our header, you'll notice it says androidx.constraintlayout.widget.constraintlayout. Now I'm just going to drop the namespace reference onto the next line. So I can take that code and I can delete it and replace it. I'm going to start typing in L, and for the L I get a linear layout. Now you notice the linear layout here is a horizontal layout. But I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And now if I go back to my design mode or even the split mode, let's go to split. We can see that at the top of our component tree we now have a linear layout. Now it says horizontal, so I'm going to select that, and I'm going to look for the orientation attribute, and here it is. I'm going to make it vertical. So now you see it says vertical in our component tree, and I can begin to develop my layout. So that's one way to do this. I'm going to undo all that for a minute. So we're back to the way we started. So here's the other option that I can do, is I can right-click on my layout folder in the project manager and choose New Layout Resource File. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call it Menu. And then the root element right now says Constraint Layout. Again, I can just delete that. Start to type in L and choose Linear Layout. It's going to be set in my resource folder in the directory named Layout, and I'm going to choose OK. So now I have a new layout called menu.xml. It recognized it needs to be a vertical linear layout by default, and so that's what I got. There's nothing in this layout other than my linear layout structure. There's one more step. I want this to be my opening layout, is I need to go to the main activity.kt file and change set content view r.layout activity main to r.layout menu. And notice it understands that menu is one of the choices there. It gives us that possibility. So now when I test my application, and just so you can see this, I'm going to go back to my menu file, and let's just put a picture here. I'm going to take my image view just so you can see this work, and let's put the raccoon logo. Now since this is a linear layout, it's going to go to the top, but all I want to do now is start my project, and you can see it went to my linear layout menu.xml to start. I'm going to end my emulator, hide it. In my project, we placed this image at the top of our linear layout, and actually I do want an image to start with. I just don't want this image. So I'm going to change the source to be raccoons. We're going to have this appear at the top of all of our layouts. So I want to offset this a little bit, and I want to bring it in horizontally 16 dp, and from the top also 16 dp. I'm probably going to use that on other views. So I'm going to go in and create, in my resource manager, a dimension. So I'm going to create a new value. I'm going to call this horizontal margin, and my resource value is going to be 16 dp. And I want this to pertain to both the values and the night values, so it's both dark and light displays. So I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go to the layout margin, and I'm going to set the margin horizontal. But instead of typing 16 dp, so I get this consistent throughout all of my different views, I can begin to type an @ symbol, and I can choose dimension horizontal margin, or I can also click on the bar at the far right to go to my resources, and I would find it there as well. Now the advantage of this is if I later wanted to change that margin, maybe to 24, I would have to go through and change that everywhere that I've set it. I can just go back to my dimension resource and change it there to a new dimension. Now I'm going to set the top to be the same thing. Since it's just a value of 16, even though it's named horizontal margin, I can go ahead and set that. And now I've got a 16 dp margin all the way around, start, top, and end. I'm not going to do it at the bottom, but now I'm going to add another item to my linear layout. And here I just want to have some text. So I'm going to take the text view, I'm going to add it, I'm going to change the text, and I should have probably created a string for this. I don't think I added a string for main menu, so I'm going to go to my strings file, and I'm just going to add a new string of name equals, we'll use menu, and we'll say main menu is going to be the text, and the concluding string tags added for us. Now I'm going to go back to my text view, and once again here I can just click the bar on the far right to add a resource, and the resource I want is menu. Now I want this to be a larger text. I'm going to scroll down to text size, and let's set this to 24 scaled pixels. I'm going to set the style to be bold, and I'm going to make the alignment, text alignment, I'm going to choose gravity. I'm going to come up to gravity, and let's just make this centered horizontally and vertically. Now I might want to add a little bit of space here, especially at the top. So again, I'm going to offset this the same as I did before, so 16 dp. I'm going to go to layout margin and choose vertical, and once again I'll choose horizontal margin. So that gives a little space between the image and my text. Next I want to add a button. So I'm just going to drag a button to my linear layout. So this one I'll do a little bit differently. I'm going to choose a margin. I'm going to bring the horizontal in quite a bit. Let's do 60 dp. I'm going to set the corner radius I'm going to make it a large number, like 50 dp, and that's going to round those corners for me. I'm going to set a margin here to both top and bottom. We'll do 10 dp. And then my text is going to be team roster. Now, I'd like this to be a little bit wider, so I'm going to change the height from wrap content to, let's try 60 dp. And that looks pretty good. I'm only going to have 4 buttons here. I'd like this button to be black. So if I change the background color or the background of my button, it's going to be overridden by the theme. I could change the background tint and make it black. But in this case, I'm going to go into the themes and I'm going to set the primary color to be black. And I'd probably do the same thing or something similar on the night themes, but I wouldn't want it to be black. So I'll experiment with that later. I'm going to go back to my main menu. So now that is black. Okay, I'm going to give this a name. So give it an ID, right? It's a button. I'm going to call it BTN roster. It's going to refactor for me. And I want to recreate this button 3 more times. And this is where working with the code rather than the design can come in really handy. I'm going to go to the code of my layout, and I'm simply going to select the button and copy it, paste it, and this one's going to be our opening day lineup. So it's going to say lineup. It's going to be the name of it. And then everything else is going to stay the same except for the text. I want this to be lineup. Now I'm going to go back to my design view, and there's my button. And it's spaced 20 dp between these because each of these has a margin of 10. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing 2 more times. This one will be BTN Stadium. And the text will be Stadium. This one will be BTN Ronnie, and my text will be Ronnie. So once again, I'm going to come back to my design. That all looks great. Now, I also wanted some text above my main menu. So I'm going to show you can just drop an item into the list and take the text view. I'm going to drop it above my menu text. In here, we're going to set this string to about. So I'm going to pad this a little bit. So there's margins and there's padding and there's also inset. The padding affects the content of the view. So the view still goes to the far edges if I pad it. Now if I set the margin, the view comes in. And if I set the inset, that basically brings the content inward, but it keeps that area active. For a button, it would still be a button clickable area. But I'm going to just pad this one. So I'm going to go down to padding. And we'll pad this, I'm thinking 24 dp. I'm just going to hard code that one in. And then my vertical, again, I'm going to do the horizontal margin. Give that a little space. That looks pretty good, except I don't want it at the bottom. So it looks a little too much distance between menu and the about text. So I really don't want the padding vertical. I'm going to just delete that. And instead I want padding at the top. And I'll go ahead and use my horizontal margin there. Okay, that looks much better. So that is our linear layout. We're going to create another linear layout for Ronnie Raccoon. For now, I'm going to go to the File menu and choose Save All. And we'll do that next layout in another video. If you just jumped into this video, You can see all the videos from the Android App Development Cohort playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos that I create, you can click my picture up in the top right and subscribe to the channel.